Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Spring 2022 Writing Quarterly Wrap-Up video. This is a weird time for filming. There is a little bit of thunder outside right now that I'm hoping won't get worse than this, but I really am hoping to get this filmed and edited and posted soon. I'm a little later than I hoped I would be because I was a little late with my last video, my mid-year freak-out check-in tag for my reading, so I'd like to get back on track here. And alas, perhaps the tumultuous weather outside is appropriate for this quarter, which was a kind of difficult one for me, but I will get into that in the coming sections. You will see banners scrolling from above, and I will talk about generally what's up and highlight a few things and lay out some goals and see if Septu Unella has to punish me for what I did and didn't get done in the spring. So yeah, as I mentioned just now, this was a difficult quarter for me. Pretty much shortly after I filmed my last wrap-up video, my cat Missy ran into some health complications, and it ate up a couple of months really of dealing with that and the aftermath, and there was really a period of a lot of anxiety and a lot of change. And part of that change influenced me to make some difficult choices, really, and the big one for writing is that I used to go to my writing salon twice a week, and I ended up for most of this quarter not going on Monday nights after work because I didn't want to leave Missy alone that long, especially because I changed some of her patterns as well, and I've had a difficult time getting back into going on Monday nights. I've very mixed feelings about it. I really miss that time for the camaraderie, and it was a great time for writing. I join on Zoom sometimes, but it is not as useful, or I don't do as well on the Zoom, alas. But anyway, that's some of the big angst, some of the big, I guess, fail. Another kind of failure of the quarter is I was at the very beginning part of a beta match with another woman in the local area where we're both working on novels, technically speaking, but the truth is I haven't been working on my fantasy novel because all of the short story writing has been taking up the writing time I've allotted myself, so I've really let that relationship fall to the wayside just because I feel like there's not much for me to contribute, and she hasn't been in contact, so that's an unfortunate thing that just didn't work out, but I am thinking maybe of contacting her in the future to see maybe if we could do things, I don't know, well, just to check in, we'll see. Anyway, I do have a couple of sort of craft classes that I could mention participating in. One was very recent. NaNoWriMo put in this world building seminar, hour-long seminar just recently in preparation for Camp Nano that began in July. They did an interview with the founders of World Anvil, which is a hugely popular world building site for gamers and novelists, and also the founder of For the Words, which I also know about through Nano because apparently you can play the game by, typing, like putting your word count in for however you do with your word count for writing, and then that enables you to play this fantasy game, I guess using your word count as points, which sounds fascinating, but I feel like it would be way too much of a distraction for me, so I feel like it would be counterproductive ultimately, but it does sound fascinating, and it does lead into world building, which is something. So yeah, I appreciated it. I've done a bunch of world building sessions, but what I really like about especially the World Anvil people is how sort of direct they are. They're very direct, but they have a lot of examples, and you can tell even before they sort of spilled the beans about their own backgrounds that they're coming from this as a sociological point of view, that they're sociologists. Because I think with world building, especially in science fiction and fantasy, people tend to start and stop with, what does the magic look like? But if you don't have a context for all of it about like why and how people live the way they do, which is often grounded in a sense of realism, even if it's based in, medieval realism, you can't go far with it. It just, it'll be very shallow, if it's just, pew pew for nothing. It'll just, a lot of readers at least myself, would not be that interested in it. You can't really call it world building. And to make a world, a secondary world, or, a historical world, there's a lot to make something look real and complex. And they address that as well, to basically start with the big picture, and only a few details to not get, caught in the weeds. And then from there to focus on the specifics that would help flesh out your story. But just start with the big picture so that, we can all have a sense of faith that there is some scaffolding behind this. So, and then the second session I did was really the first session, way back in early April, through the Writers Center, which is a local to me writing organization that has various classes in person on their campus and also on Zoom. And I did a Zoom one for short story revision writing right around the time that I was starting revising of Lashon Hara. And it was with a teacher called Hananah Zaheer. I'll link her info down below as well. She is a short story writer herself. So we went through the nuts and bolts of what it means to revise, and a couple of the big takeaways I took is how she uses color coding, like she color codes such things as dialogue versus exposition. So that's a really great way for you to see exactly how much of each you have, and you don't want one to be too much more than any of the others. And then she also does something that she calls shutting, which is just massive cutting of words for those writers among us who, just meander and pontificate around the point forever. She actually took some examples from real people, and oh my gosh, it was like almost like BDSM for writers because we were watching her on the screen, like, chomp out massive bits of paragraph, and the writers would be like, oh, it hurts, but it's so good, just to get to the meat of what they're actually trying to say. But yeah, it was a great reminder of a lot of editing is cutting our babies down, I think, for a lot of writers. So that was a lot of fun. And for a bit of a detour, this is my section where I talk about my favorite blog posts, because a lot of the writing I do each month and each quarter, yada yada, is not fiction writing. It is writing I do for my 3 blogs. I tend to write at least 1 blog post per each blog per month, and so I highlight my 3 favorites here, starting with Jewish DC, which is my blog where I chronicle Jewish events happening in the DC area. And back in April, I wrote More Than Just the Food, the Passover Seder with Sixth and I. But I was so excited. Sixth and I is an organization in DC that I really love, but I've kind of fallen out of the habit of doing their programming. So for the past couple of years, I've made sure at least to do some of their Passover programming, which is especially interesting to me. I've tried to reclaim Passover. It's a difficult holiday to celebrate when you're largely on your own. It's a very family-oriented holiday. So this is my way of trying to reclaim it in a way and to revisit what it means and how to approach it, and some of the major crux of this Zoom with the rabbi at Sixth and I was talking about how to get family members through Seders, because they can be very long and there's always people who want to complain about it, and also how to make it more enticing for everybody. So that was a lot of fun to get through. Then for Hava's Footsteps, I just recently wrote this post. I called it Revisiting the Star Wars Prequels Through the Obi-Wan Kenobi Miniseries During Dark Days in the U.S., which is a relatively rambling post, but basically my hook for people reading it is that I was dealing with a lot of my feelings about the prequels and what the Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries that recently aired brought to the prequels, and then in the real world, Roe versus Wade was overturned in the U.S. by the Supreme Court, and I was in the mindset of thinking about how our institutions fail us and how we see their corruption. So that's something the prequels did pretty well, really. And I'm on record that I'm one of the people who's loved the prequels, since the beginning, warts and all, although I did also go on a big ramble about some of my thoughts, especially on Padme, which is, I suppose, strange because, of course, she's not in the Obi-Wan's miniseries and she's long dead by that point, but I feel like she's an area where I struggle a lot, and she's also, her storyline is the one that's the most political and really goes into the complexity of politics in the prequels. Yes, and if I didn't mention, Hava's Footsteps is my blog where I largely talk about pop culture and sometimes Judaism. And finally, my final blog that I run is my Reading and Writing blog. and the one I'm highlighting this quarter took place in May. May was International Short Story Month and also Jewish American History Month. So I do this perennial post of highlighting Jewish American short story collections, you know, doing a hybrid of both. And I'm sure I just watched that last year I also highlighted, you know, the post I did for this in 2021, and maybe in earlier years I did this as well. I haven't checked, but it is a post that bears a lot of fruit because there's excitingly always new and old Jewish American short story collections to highlight, and it just makes me more excited to read them soon, hopefully. But speaking of writing short stories and novels and my goals for them, I am on to my spring 2022 goals recap, where I will assess what I got through and what I didn't before, you know, tragedy strikes. My first goal I called Short Stories Corner, which was submit Lashon Hara to some lit mags and draft a genre tale, which technically is a partial win and iffy win, in that I definitely finished all of my drafting and revising of Lashon Hara. I feel really happy about it, and I have started submitting to some contests and lit mags, and I'm waiting to hear back, and we'll see how this goes. And then my second part is that I wanted to draft a genre tale. I have another submission deadline coming up in the future, and I wanted to have a really strong, rough draft at least finished by this point, you know, at the end of the spring quarter. But I'm not finished it yet. I've made some significant progress in this first draft, but I'm not completely finished, and now I have basically until this deadline at the end of the month to see if I have something viable to submit, but we'll get to that later. Goal number 2 is to mark up this book on world building, and again, it's kind of a partial win because I marked up about half of it. I basically highlighted a bunch of stuff, and so it's really not even that difficult to do that, but, you know, I then, after a while, you know, was focusing on other things or yada yada, so anyway, I only did half of it. And I'm angsty about it. I feel like it's mostly about me gaining confidence about writing world building. So I feel iffy about the fact that I didn't exactly take any notes, but I don't know, I kind of wanted to just sort of build up my confidence in my head, so hopefully I will do that, and I'll probably be visiting this book again as I'm writing, just to think about, you know, when something crops up about, like, how do I want a house to look? Maybe I can come back to this. I don't know, this comes back to how crazy weird world building is. I wish I could talk to the World Anvil people about what the hell I'm doing with this. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna stop angsting about this now. Because I have to get to goal number 3, which is Fantasy Project Act 2A, make that bed, aka finish writing all of Act 2A, and shame. 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 Fun fact, we are now, I guess, roughly a month and a half away from the new Game of Thrones prequel series, House of the Dragon. I'm sure there's a new trailer I could put down below for fun. Maybe I can appease Septa and Ella that way. Probably not. But hopefully one way I can appease Septa and Ella is to dust myself off and keep on going into the writing future with the new quarter and my summer 2022 goals announcements. So here I go. Here's what I'm holding myself accountable to for the next 3 months. Goal number 1 is Short Story Corner. I appreciate that topic title. Here it's finishing my genre tale and submit, both for the genre tale and continually for Lashon Hara. We'll see how that goes. Goal number 2 is to prep and submit to Bianca Marais' Great Beta Reader Matchup. So this is my fantasy project oriented goal. I'm going to stop talking about Act 2A because I'm not getting anywhere with that particular mindset. And instead, I think what I really need is some more direct accountability. So Bianca Marais is the host of a very popular podcast on writing called the Shit No One Tells You About Writing, which I'll link below. It is really, really good. I would very much recommend it to anyone who is a writer. And one of the major things she's doing now that she has so many fans is she is facilitating beta reader matchups, where I think you submit online and you talk about your genre and where you are in your writing process. And she's doing all this great work of bringing you to fellow writers in similar circumstances. Understandably, she's not doing it all the time. I think she's taking a break until, well, even just until the end of August. So that gives me enough time to finish up my short story writing goals and to really solidify something of my fantasy novel to send out, and hopefully I can work with beta readers and hopefully fellow fantasy writers, and we can really get some good work done with this. And finally, goal number 3 is, at the Writers Salon, we write fiction. This is my silly homage to Mean Girls, and on Wednesdays we wear pink. And it is focused on the writing salon that I belong to, the DC Writers Salon, where I go once or twice a week. And my intention with joining the Writers Salon, which is an actual, place with fellow writers that I've come to know, is to focus on my fiction writing, because as referenced through this video, I do a lot of other writing, blog posts and book reviews and that sort of thing, but I don't always carve out as much time for fiction writing, and that was my major reason for going and joining the salon. And I also joined the finishers group, where we're supposed to have a distinct goal that we're working towards. So I was going to have fiction writing goals for the salon, and sometimes, like including today, I put fiction aside and I work on other stuff instead. And I want to see if for one quarter I can hold myself accountable to the fact that this is supposed to be my fiction writing space. And if I need to do any other writing, there's plenty of other days in the week that I can do that. But this is fiction writing space. Get into that headspace. We'll see where we go with that. So that about covers it for me now. And yeah, despite having some big pitfalls this quarter, and certainly not getting to everything I wanted to get to, I feel pretty good about what I did accomplish. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm still in the game here. And that's a great feeling for, bolstering myself up to face the summer months. Also, I feel good that apparently the thunder was not too much of a distraction. Huzzah! Anyway, I'm going to go wrap this up now so I can face the new quarter in reading and writing. I hope to be back on this channel within the next couple of days for my first reading update of July, in fact, although it's mostly some spillover from June that I'm trying to tie up here, but stay tuned for that. I hope all of my fellow writers are feeling good about what they accomplished this quarter and the first half of the year, and are eager to quest forward. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep writing, and I'll see you next time.